But first of all, I'm delighted to be joined now by the Minister of State for Illegal Migration, Michael Tomlinson. He's also the Tory MP for Mid Dorset and North Poole. Lovely to see you this morning, Mr. Tomlinson. First of all, can I ask you about the death of Alexei Navalny? His family are saying this was orchestrated murder. Do you agree with that assessment?
May I say at the outset that Alexei Navalny was a courageous politician, somebody who stood up against Putin. If you think about, if we think that politics is difficult in the West, how much harder was it for Alexei Navalny to be standing up to Putin? And obviously my sympathy goes out to his wife and family and to all the Russian people. And I think the Foreign Secretary has been very clear on this, laying the blame firmly at Putin's door. He was absolutely right to do so, and I join him in doing it.
So orchestrated murder, then?
I agree with the Foreign Secretary that the blame is firmly at Putin's door.
When Lord Cameron's talked about consequences for the Russian president, what sort of consequences can we expect to see?
Well, we've already seen, for example, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that there have been 1,700 individuals and entities who have been sanctioned. We know that that has had an effect because Putin himself has accepted the difficulties that those have presented. Clearly, that is an option for the Foreign Secretary to look at, and I'm sure he'll have the time and the space to do that. But more broadly, I think you can see from our support for the people of Ukraine, you may have seen overnight, the extension of the visa scheme for our Ukrainian friends who are over here seeking shelter and refuge in the United Kingdom. They now have the security and knowledge that they can be in the United Kingdom for a further 18 months. It was important to give them that certainty, and I think our broader support for Ukraine has been second to none.
Let's ask you about your brief as the Minister for Illegal Migration. I was quite surprised in the week to see a graph by the Oxford Migration Observatory suggesting that only 1.3% of those who have come here by boat illegally since 2018 have actually been removed from the country. That suggests that your policy on stopping illegal immigration has failed, and it's failed badly.
Well, let's look at that. Last year, boat crossings were down by 36%. 16,000 fewer people got in and made those dangerous crossings coming over. Of course, there is more to do. I was in France 48 hours ago seeing the work that was going on with our French counterparts, our French allies in this, and it's a joint mission. It is a joint endeavour stopping the boats between the French and the United Kingdom.
To only remove 1.3% of those coming here illegally, that is woeful. 1.3%. What message is that sending out to the people smugglers and indeed the people getting into barely inflatable dinghies? It's basically saying that almost 100% of you are going to end up being able to stay in the UK.
Camilla, I accept that there's more that needs to be done. You mentioned the flimsiness of the dinghies. Since the very first day in my office, I've been making the moral case for our Rwanda scheme. There have been many critics of it, many people saying that it wouldn't work or that it's not good enough. We have a moral imperative to make sure that people don't get on those boats. For the last 3 months, we have seen fatalities in the Channel. These people smugglers do not care if you're going to live or if you're going to die. They care about the bottom line. They care about profit. That's why the Rwanda scheme is so important, and we see that back in the House of Lords tomorrow. We need to get that on the statute book. I'm sure you'll see some parliamentary ping-pong between the House of Lords and the House of Commons when amendments are inevitably
I know,
going to be tabled.
To only remove
made.
1.3%, Mr. Tomlinson. 1.3%.
Well, Camilla, I'm telling you about what we're doing to increase that, because we need to get these planes off the ground. I'm hearing that message loud and clear. But in order to do that, and in direct response to the Supreme Court judgments of the 15th of November, we need to get the treaty in place. That was signed on the 5th of December. We need to get the treaty ratified. We need to get this bill through the House of Commons and the House of Lords, and we need to get those planes off the ground. And that's my mission.
Can you clear something up for us? Because the Telegraph had reported that when you were Solicitor General, you advised that ignoring Strasbourg injunctions to block flights would be in breach of ECHR. So do you actually think this Rwanda policy is legal?
You wouldn't expect me to comment on legal advice, but what you would expect me to do is to say what I will do as Minister and what the Prime Minister has said he will do. The Prime Minister has been very clear that he will not let a foreign court block our Rwanda plan. I'm very clear that the legislation in Clause 5, it's there in the statute, when we get it onto the statute books, says that it's for a minister to decide. That is fundamental. That's why we need the law to be on the statute book. And when that law is on the statute book, that's when decisions will be made and the planes will get off the ground.
But aren't the disastrous by-election results for the Tories reflective of the fact that the public looks at the 5-point plan and has decided it's not working? You know, the plan on the economy isn't working. We went into recession. The plan on stopping the boats isn't working because you haven't stopped them. And we now find out that you've only removed 1.3% of those who came here legally. So, I mean, you are in dire trouble. The plan's not working, Mr. Tomlinson.
Well, Camilla, let me take those in turn. You've mentioned three things. In relation to the by-election, there is no doubt that the by-election was set against a very difficult backdrop. One message that I have received from the by-election, loud and clear, is that if you vote for reform, you get Labour. You go back to square one with Labour. So
maybe you have to do a deal with reform then, Mr. Tomlinson.
No, the message is loud and clear. A vote for reform is going back to square one and you get Labour. So that's the first thing you mentioned. The second thing you mentioned was the economy. In relation to the economy, we have seen the Prime Minister's top priority was to halve inflation. Inflation was at 11.1%, don't forget. I'm sure you'll remember it was 11.1%. It's now down at 4%. We need to see growth improving. One of the biggest blocks to growth is inflation.
The other thing that's down, Mr. Tomlinson, is our living standards. I mean, maybe some people actually look on the last 14 years and say, we wouldn't mind going back to square one because we're in no better position now, 14 years on.
No, that's not right. If you look at the forecasters, if you look at the IMF that forecasts that we are going to grow as an economy faster than France, faster than Germany, faster than Italy, faster than Japan. If you look at the OECD, if you look at the Bank of England and the OBR, they all say that there will be growth and that is coming. We need to stick to the plan. But the final piece of the jigsaw you mentioned was firmly in my brief. That was the Prime Minister's plan and is the Prime Minister's plan to stop the boats. That is something that's been given to me. The Prime Minister has given that to me to deal with. I was in France 48 hours ago. That is our mission, and I'm very clear that we absolutely must and will stop the boats.
OK. Mr. Tomlinson, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning.